Students around the world are finishing their qualifications so they can get ahead in life and make their contribution. If you are studying, researching, or thinking about it, you will need practical tips, techniques, coaching, and support to help you get finished and be successful. I'm Peter Alkemer, the Student Success Coach, and welcome to the podcast. Each episode, I interview successful students and leaders in education so that you will learn everything you need right here. You will learn about writing, completing your thesis and other projects, planning, discipline, how to get more done, supervisors, getting published, getting finished, how to have the right discipline, and many other aspects of student life. Whether you're listening on Spotify, iTunes, Google, or any other podcast platform, please leave a rating and a review. Or if you're watching on YouTube, hit the like button, subscribe, and leave a comment. Either way, please get in touch and let us know what you think of the show and what you want to hear more of. Please always check the show notes for links to courses, material, and plenty more so that you can use what you've learned in each episode, take action, and achieve your student success. Please also join the Student Success Coach community in our exclusive members-only Facebook group where I post regularly and you can interact with fellow students just like yourself. Remember, you can't do this alone, so reach out, get involved, and take advantage. It's my commitment to your success. Now for this week's episode. Candice, thank you so much for joining us today. Really appreciate your time on the podcast. It's a great opportunity for us to catch up. I was, quite involved with your MBA and sort of enjoyed, watching from the sides your progress and your success as a student, and also, I guess, your ups and downs. And I mean, doing an MBA part-time is tough, but you got through it. And really, I'm keen to explore all of those so our listeners can get some insights if they're thinking about doing the same thing or studying part-time or dealing with academic stress, as many people do when they're trying to get through degrees and qualifications, etc. But before we get there, maybe just explain to our listeners a bit about yourself, what you studied, why you did it, just bring us up to speed. How's Candice today?
Thanks, Peter. So, I think to start off, basically, I'd always wanted to do an MBA. I think I first heard about it when I was doing my undergrad at Wits, from one of the professors there, who in one of the lectures, I think he had enrolled in it and was telling us about it, and it's how exciting it was, and what a great almost degree or course to do, and all the various, that it was just end to end of understanding business, and that you get to not necessarily go into specialist learning on each area, but that the end to end high level understanding was there, and he was very excited about it. So I think that kind of sparked from there. I won't say, as many do, many of my fellow colleagues that on the program decided to do it. If you ask them, they wanted to start their own business. Many wanted to leave corporates and go start their own ventures, and they do, I must say, highly encourage that. I think just given the high unemployment rates in South Africa, it is something that they highly encourage within the degree as well, and many of them have. I've seen we formed quite a good friendships, great friendships, and we keep in contact. And many of them have left corporate. They amazingly had very high level jobs, and they've left them and started their own little side businesses, which is great. And then I guess the other side of it, which would be somebody like myself, who's just really curious, and it was always on my list, not necessarily hoping to start my own business, but just in my own professional career, to gain knowledge and hopefully be able to give back or to improve in my current job, as well as from a personal aspect. So I think anybody who's looking to do it, I can honestly say the greatest benefit that I received was the personal growth on the personal side, and just how much of a person I grew, within that time. Not downplaying the knowledge and the skills and the relationships and experiences that you gain. Those are really, I don't think any amount of money can give you that. But the personal growth side is also, I mean, it was just, I was completely amazed by that, and I loved every minute. I mean, I can't say that it's not stressful, because it really is. It's a lot of hours, a lot of work has to be put into it, but the what you get out of it is far more than what you put in, I think.
Amazing. I mean, that's incredible, Candice. I think you've just given us the two perspectives of, going into an MBA. And yours was very clearly, as you said, the personal development, just maybe climbing the ladder or just improving yourself from a corporate development perspective. And as you said, your personal growth was, you were amazed by that and you loved your experience. So it sounds like it was really positive. But can you give us a couple of examples, break it down? I mean, before your MBA versus after, what did you feel that you were able to do now that you hadn't sort of had the breadth or the exposure prior to the MBA? I mean, could you make it practical for us what that personal growth and the improvement in your world looks like, in terms of your corporate life and journey?
Sure. So I think, we talking on my experience. So I worked in project management, and I was very focused in that area, that specialist area, and had those skills, and had done other courses to improve those skills, but it's very specialized. And I think, and it was great, and I really enjoyed that. But then after the MBA, it's not that I think I'm one of the very few that did the MBA and came back and said, I'm changing my role and the area that I'm specializing in. I didn't in myself. I stayed in IT, but in doing that, from learning, all the various elements, I think I could contribute better in the fact that, for an example, something like the accounting side, understanding how IT and how we might just seem like we're in the background, but how we add to how a business is profitable in the long term. So I could then understand the work that we do, and how it impacts the growth within, say, sales, or how it impacts the income in terms of servicing. So if we are not offering and working on improving those products from an RT point of view, how it could impact that. You can also then, I think, for the first time after MBA, when the financial results came out, I could actually read them and understand them, which was great. I felt very, very impressed with myself.
That makes one of us, because I still get quite mystified when I try and get through accounting statements and so on. So well done. That's great. That's a good milestone.
But also from another great, I think, skill that I learned or was exposed to, we did almost like a leadership quest as part of the MBA, which I think is such an important skill for anybody, no matter if you plan to be a specialist or not. That those leadership skills that I learned from there, just within my current team and with where I work today, that is, I think, the biggest impact for me that I learned from there. And then also, I think, you get to touch so many different areas of business. And I think from the leadership quest to the international travel that you get to do, where you also actually, they give you something that you have to almost start your own business. You have to put together that plan as if you're going to do it. So whether you're going to do the MBA to start your own business or not, it is something that you have to do. And I think I just learned so much from that. I go to work now and understanding the value that I give back to a business. Because ideally, I mean, it's F&B, but each business unit is run as a business on its own. So I think those three things for me were the big game changers, if I can put it that way. And then also what helped me a lot was in projects, I think, or RT projects specifically, we're so busy in the tactical or the operational part of it, where we're just doing, and we got to learn a lot about the strategic focus or the strategic planning, and the strategic vision as part of the MBA, that I could come back and apply that more to my role, and almost help try and get out of the weeds, out of the woods, just seeing the woods from the trees, and just trying to put together a vision, a roadmap. What are we strategically doing and why are we doing it? Which I think helps a lot when people get so focused in just the doing, to be able to see where's the value that we're going to add to this. So I think that was really the big areas, or the big modules that I really, really enjoyed. The other one, which was very surprising to me, that I enjoyed, which not necessarily has helped in my professional career, but more in personal. Also, I love learning about shares and investments, was the economic side. So when I did my undergrad, I really was not interested in economics or accounting. But this time around, I just really thoroughly enjoyed those two courses, and I just learned so much aside, not necessarily in the job that I do today, but in other areas of interest in my personal life.
Amazing, so, Candice, that's an incredible story.
Yeah, and I think the international travel, I hope that soon, I heard that the MBA groups from the last year, it all had to be cancelled. But honestly, I can say, yes, it's expensive, it is. But you get to go overseas, and you get to go to successful companies that people all hear about, and you get to meet with their leadership team and almost understand what they do day to day. I wasn't one of them that got to go to Google, but because that wasn't part of my my tour. But the group that did go to Google, they just said it was like they were just mind blown by how things are run there, and getting to meet, with some of the strategic team there. So yeah, I think just that experience, I don't think there's any amount of money that can quantify that.
So Candice, just to be clear for our listeners, you did your MBA before we had the lockdowns and the pandemic in 2020, so you were able to go on those international projects and cohorts. Just where did you go? And I mean, just give us a sense of, if you can, which company you did visit, and what was your kind of big takeaway from that trip?
So I was before COVID, thank goodness. So I went in 2018, and my program was a bit different. I got offered as being one of the top students in the part-time group. What WITS offers is they take the top students from the full-time and from the part-time, and they send you almost I went on a 3-month program to the Laverne University in LA, in the States. So yeah, they choose it based on a few students, and we got to go there and do a program, executive leadership program there, with the lecturers, and we visited. So the top company that we visited was for us was IKEA. And we met with the marketing director and the leadership team in terms of strategic vision and planning. And then we also got to meet with the operations manager, which showed us for that specific area, the operations side of things, just out of interest. Which was quite nice because he was visiting the area that we were in.
Incredible. So 3 months in LA and just getting an inside track on, global, very successful company. And then I suppose just now with the sort of lecturing and theory and modules and reading and assignments and everything that you've been doing in the MBA, then a sort of almost immediate opportunity to see that in practice on a global scale. And I mean, as you said, just absolutely sort of gave you that broad-minded sense of business and how value is created, and then the role that you play in helping that now sort of being done even better because you've got that, that broader understanding of the business world. So yeah, Candice, very interesting. Yeah, that's all very, very helpful. And I think for people listening in who might be thinking about an MBA, it's that opportunity to explore and to get all those insights, and you should embrace it and make the most of those opportunities, as Candice has done, which is fantastic. Candice, then just maybe a little bit of the practicalities of your research module, and a lot of guests that we've had on and a lot of people in the student success coach community. We have a members only Facebook group and a YouTube channel, and lots of other value for people, and a common focus that they have is to get through a research project, either as part of a module, I think like you did in an MBA, or as a 50% of a master's, or even as a full PhD, for example. And I wondered if you could just look back on the research project, which I think is where you and I sort of came into contact. And if I recall, you did it on Agile and program management officers, etc. So I mean, just regardless of the topic, just how did you find that process of research, and what did you learn, and what was your experiences of that?
I think I mean, I had an awesome supervisor, which really
coach.
Which really kept me on track. So, I'm going to just be very, very honest. I think this was the one that I least enjoyed, the module that I least enjoyed. And I think a person you have to be very focused, because it's not a quick thing. It's not an assignment that you come home and you thrash out and get done. And that's my type of personality. I like to get things done and start and finish. And any research is not, it's over a period of time. You also, you can't, many students, they call them the lastminute.com. You can't do that here. You absolutely need to allocate time, and you need to do it consistently. So I think for me, the topic and the researching, finding articles and the reading up of it, I enjoyed that part. I think the writing for me, I realized a big thing from this is that I don't think I will personally ever write a book, because writing for me I found very, very challenging. There was many days that I actually sat behind the computer, and you want to write and you just go blank, and it is the most frustrating thing. And actually the best thing you can do in that moment is just get up, walk away from it, and try again the next day. But so it's not something that you can leave for 2 weeks before and personally, I think that would give me a lot of anxiety, but just kind of go last minute and quickly put something out. There's many, like you and I had many review sessions. If I just look at the first sort of paper that I wrote compared to the one that I submitted, it's significantly different. And that's basically, in a nutshell, I mean, it's a process. If you just sum it up, it's definitely a process. And also, I think you need one of the big success elements for me was having somebody like yourself who was in the same area of expertise as myself. So you had background on what we were researching and could lead me in the right direction. I think you hear of many horror stories where students had an issue with that, you know. They have a supervisor who helps them to kind of say, okay, you need to do A, B, and C, but who don't really have the insight and knowledge into what their students are researching, and it's very hard to get them on the right track or to give the right guidance on that point. So I think that's a big point of advice is to don't go with the first supervisor. I think, research it and meet with them. I mean, there's many supervisors available, and then meet with them frequently. I think they will help you keep on track, because I can be very honest, it's easy to let it, you can put it off and put it off and put it off because may not be something you enjoy doing. But I think what helped was having set meetings and breaking it down into piece like deliverables and being held accountable for those deliverables. So knowing that, okay, in 2 weeks I have to come with this part of it, because if you try to tackle everything in one big chunk, it's very overwhelming, I think, for somebody who hasn't done research before.
And I certainly recall that aspect in our sessions where I sort of tried to help you, think about it like a series of steps or a series of pieces that you would then ultimately string together. And rather than get sort of intimidated by the sort of uncertainty or the size of what you were trying to accomplish, just as you've said now, focus on what are you going to do for next week? What piece of writing are you going to get done? With a little bit of support from a good supervisor that can then just point you in the right direction, but not give you the answer. Make sure that there's a bit of a journey of self-discovery, but within some parameters that gives you a sense of progress, week by week. I think is a good approach to coaching, and certainly one that I try to play in my role of supervisor / coach with you. And I can certainly vouch for what you say. I mean, from that first piece of writing that you did with the best intentions, I mean, it, as you say, wasn't perhaps your first choice of something to do when you wake up on a Saturday morning, which you often had to do if you want to get through an MBA. You have to work on a weekend if you're part time. But certainly, towards the end, you had made marked improvements, and I think you were churning out decent writing, and I think you overcame that because you it is something to become good at. And I know you've recently become a mom, and no one trains, and I've got kids, so no one trains you to become a parent, and there's tough aspects to it, and there's great aspects to it, and you just sort of set your mind on getting into it. And I think the most important thing, Candice, for me, just reading you, was that you were not going to let your lack of motivation, let's say, about writing cost you your MBA, let's say that, right? So this wasn't going to be something you were going to, and I mean that's the nature of someone like yourself. You're a successful person. You get things done. You'll overcome it. It might be tough, but you'll put your head down, grit your teeth, and get through it. And my sense was, as you've indicated, there were lots of wonderful things that you jumped at doing and were thrilled to do and to embrace the personal development. But when it came to the writing aspects, particularly, and maybe research in general, it took a little bit more effort, a little bit more coaching, but you got through it. And you, if I recall, you know, certainly got close to a distinction, or if not, did get a distinction at the end. And you must just finish strong, and that's the most important thing. To get to the top of the mountain, and there's different routes to get up the mountain, and as long as you've got someone to sort of help you along the way, you're going to make it.
Definitely, and I think I think the best, what helped me the most was the piece of advice that you gave me was, don't sit down and expect to write 2 pages. Just say, I'm going to sit down and I'm going to write 200 words. And at first it may seem a lot, 200 words, but you know, when you start it, before you know it, 200 words is done, and then you stop and you say that is enough for today. But you've got to be consistent in doing that. And I think, yes, at first writing 200 words, it seems like an impossible task. But I clearly remember that was the Saturday morning that I woke up to take, you know, start. And by the next Saturday, 200 words seemed, you know, it was done within 20 minutes, as opposed to, say, 2 hours in the beginning. And then I think the second thing to your second point was that, you know, MBA, it's, when you start, it's very exciting, you know, and it's like you're very keen and you're very motivated. And I remember a past student on the first day of orientation came and spoke to us, and he said, so basically when he started his MBA, within that year, he had lost his wife and they had a baby. And for him, you know, going through that and having this MBA, which he'd always wanted to do, it would appear just natural to like give the MBA up. But he had to keep reminding himself why he was doing this, and that's how he managed to get through it and complete it. And I think that was a big takeaway that I took, was I kept, as hard as it gets, because I can tell you when you're starting and it's not MBA, I think the reason why the MBA sounds so difficult and intimidating is because there's just so much, you learn so much in such a short period of time. So a ton of assignments are going to come at you, and it's group work, which is the big thing I think that many people struggle with. But it's done in a way and for a reason, because in the real world, you don't work on your own and you've got to work in a group. And you don't get to choose your group. So, you know, you get put with people and you've got to work together, and you work together for 6 months before they change you to a different group. But I always, no matter, like June came and I remember we were doing accounting, we were doing economics, and I was like, I work every day. You work in your normal job, you come home, you've got to work again. Fortunately for me, I didn't have a family at the time, but many people did. We had a lady in our group that her husband was severely ill and she had kids to look after as well. And I think we just asked each other, like, you know, what keeps you motivated? And it's just reminding yourself, why are you doing this? And I think it's almost that book, Start with the Why. It really is, you know, and I think it's easier. It's easy to give up. It is easy to quit and not do it. But I think with those exams, with studying, with assignments, because they give you a lot to do in a short period of time. And I think it's to prepare you for the real world. I mean, I'm sure you can attest to that. You know, there's times where there is a lot that needs to be done, and a lot of deliverables and a lot of escalations and a lot of issues, and you feel very overwhelmed, and then you've still got your day job. But you know what? I think it's so worth the sacrifice that people give to what they get out at the end. So I think that was a big thing that I took away, was always just remind myself why I'm doing this and why I want this. So yeah, that's my I think my biggest piece of advice to the listeners.
Wonderful, Candice, thank you. I mean, I also remember distinctly those conversations when I absolutely did just say to you, Candice, just get 200 words done. That's it. Set yourself that target. And I actually interviewed a lecturer the other day. He coordinates postgraduate students at WITS, and he actually even said that often with his students, he actually just says to them, just sit down. Just sit down at your desk. That's your goal. That is literally just your goal. Sit down at your desk, because then, okay, you achieve that goal. You're sitting at your desk and you think, okay, well, let me do some writing, and then you do a paragraph, and then you think, oh, I can do another paragraph. And then you can do another paragraph. So it's all those little pieces that add up, and then eventually, lead to an MBA or a master's or a PhD. It's all of those steps that you take as you go. And a lot of what I teach and coach my students, in my courses and the webinars and so on, is that a PhD or a master's or an MBA or any big life project is often just going to consist of a series of tasks. And if you know what those tasks are, we've all only got 24 hours, and you can get those tasks done. And there's a reason it takes a couple of years or a few years, and why not everybody's able to do it. But the successful people do tend to give you that advice of just take it day by day, focus on what you can do today. Don't set yourself up for failure. But over time, that consistency and repetition will actually add up to something, and as you say, yes, you may not sort of have the affinity to write a book, and I loved writing my book, and I had a deadline to get it in, and I was forced to get it done. And although I loved my topic of writing about woodworking, there were times when it was really tough to just sit down and get the words out, and I just had to force myself, write 100 words, write 200 words, write 300 words. And if it was at the middle of the night or early in the morning, and our kids were also 1, 2, 3 years old at the time, but eventually to see that book on the shelf today and recall all of those tough times and all of those tasks adding up to that milestone and that achievement, and for you as well to see your MBA certificate up on the wall, and to think about what you had to overcome and the personal growth and development that you achieved as a result of that. Absolutely, totally agree with your sentiments that if you have the opportunity to do it, it's absolutely well worth it. You must go for it. Candice, thank you so much for these wonderful insights and inspiration that you've given everybody today. Just heartfelt final message to people out there, maybe even struggling today, maybe they only got a couple of hours sleep last night, maybe they're thinking about doing an MBA. You've been through it now, you've shared your journey. How do they make sense of it all? What's your final thoughts?
I think just my piece of advice for anybody that's maybe doubting it or struggling, it is worth it. It is so worth it at the end. You may not see it now, but just I think perseverance and just focus. And I think for those that it just seems so overwhelming, break it down. But definitely, I mean, that's really just, you need to take one day at a time, and you need to, a big skill that you learn as part of MBA's time management, and be consistent. So put aside I'm going to work on this 2 hours of my day. Don't look at it as I'm going to work on this every day, the whole day, because then you're really not going to have the motivation and the focus. And secondly, celebrate the small wins. Take each small deliverable or assignment or test and celebrate that. And then those who aren't in it but are thinking about it, not only, but the biggest advice I can give or can say is that it is really, really worth it, and it's a life-changing experience. I think just as a person, anybody embarking on it, what the person you go in compared to the person that you come out of it is just, it's amazing. And I think just from that part, not let alone the friendships and relationships, the personal, the professional knowledge and skills and experiences that you get, those are phenomenal, and definitely not downplaying it. But if anybody's thinking of doing it, just your personal growth is really you'll value that, I think, for your life, for the rest of your life. And then when you come across tough, because you will, tough challenges after MBA, you can sometimes I remind myself, listen, Candice, I've done an MBA, like I can do this. It's not that bad. So yeah, I think that's really it. And yeah, I'm available if anybody wants to, need any, assistance or guidance. Yeah, I'm free, and I'm very happy to help.
Thanks, Candice. And that's really the spirit of the community that we have in the Student Success Coach. We have, lots and lots of people all willing to help each other and guide them through it, because you can't do it alone. You need the support and the encouragement, and you've given lots of that to us today. So I really appreciate it. And I think people listening will have got lots of value out and be, re-energized, either to get out there and just make some progress, or to potentially change their life and sign up for an MBA. Candice, thank you. Stay well. We'll chat soon. And good luck with everything that's on your plate and your continued personal development. All the best, eh?
Thank you so much.